The first thing I noticed wasn't the silence. It was what happened to my voice. I called out to Amir from a few steps ahead of me. Nothing loud, just his name. The sound left my mouth, traveled forward for a moment, and then stopped. Not faded, not carried away by the trees. It just ended. At the time, I told myself it was nothing. I'm good at doing that. I was the one who suggested the trip. I work a job where everything is noise. Screens humming, people talking through walls, headphones on even when nothing's playing. Camping was supposed to reset that. A familiar trail, predictable routine, something I'd done enough times to stop thinking about it. Amir agreed immediately. He always does. He's the kind of person who fills silence without meaning to. Not loud, just constant. Jokes, comments, half-thoughts spoken out loud. Growing up, his house was always full. Quiet meant something had gone wrong. Leah hesitated before saying yes. She doesn't camp much. New places keep her alert. Small changes in tone, shifts in atmosphere, and out here there's nowhere to switch that off. She came because she trusts me, not because she wanted to sleep in a tent. We'd been on trips together before, enough times to know each other's rhythms. That's how I know something changed early. We drove out just after midday. The road narrowed the further we went, from 2 lanes to 1, then to a stretch that felt more like a suggestion than a road. Trees closed in on both sides, tall enough that the light thinned even before we reached the trailhead. Amir kept the radio on longer than usual. Not loud, just enough to fill the car. Leah watched the trees go by. She mentioned casually that it felt quieter once we passed the last houses. Not peaceful, just muted, like the sound stayed inside the car a moment longer than it should have. We parked at a small gravel turnout marked by a faded sign, the kind you only notice if you're looking for it. No other cars, no voices, no distant road noise once the engine was off. When I shut my door, the sound felt thick, dull. The trailhead was familiar, packed dirt, scattered roots, a narrow path cutting forward into the trees. I checked the map even though I didn't need to. Habit more than uncertainty. Amir stretched and joked about finally being out of the city. His voice sounded normal then, so did mine when I answered. Leah adjusted her backpack straps and paused before stepping onto the trail, like she was listening for something. When I asked if she was ready, she nodded, but didn't say anything back. The trail sloped gently downward, winding between trees spaced just far enough apart to keep the light uneven. Sun filtered through in patches. The air smelled clean, damp, and cool. About 10 minutes in, the last trace of the road disappeared completely. No engines, no wind through open space, just the soft sound of our boots on dirt and leaves. That was when I remember thinking how contained it felt, like the woods closed behind us as we walked. The campsite sat in a shallow clearing, not wide, but open enough that you could see the tree line all the way around. The ground was mostly flat, worn smooth from previous use. A fire pit made of darkened stones sat in the center, cold and empty. There were no signs of anyone else. No trash, No footprints, no sound of nearby water. Felt neutral, ordinary. We dropped our packs near the edge of the clearing. Amir immediately started talking about where to put the tent. Leah walked the perimeter slowly, scanning the ground, the trees, the space between them. Nothing stood out. That's when Amir snapped the branch. The sound felt wrong, too close, like it happened right next to my ear, even though he was a few meters away. I didn't say anything. While setting up camp, Leah walked off to gather kindling. I asked her a question, something unimportant. She didn't respond. I called again, a little louder. Nothing. Only when she turned and looked directly at me did she react, like the sound had finally reached her. "I didn't hear you," she said. Amir laughed and said maybe the woods were messing with us. He laughed again like he wanted the sound to prove him right. Didn't. Leah clapped once. Sharp, deliberate. The sound didn't bounce. No echo. No return. It didn't feel absorbed by the forest. It felt cut off. Amir shouted his own name, half joking, half testing. The sound traveled forward and then dropped cleanly, like something had closed around it. We stood there waiting for what should have come next. Nothing did. As the light faded, the woods didn't shift the way they normally do. Birds stopped, but insects didn't replace them. The background noise thinned instead of changing. We built the fire. The crackling sounded loud when we leaned in, but when we stepped back, it didn't fade. It stayed close, like it didn't understand distance. Without discussing it, we all started speaking softer. Not whispering, just lower. Amir stopped filling the silence. No jokes, no half comments. He stared into the fire like he didn't trust his own voice anymore. Conversation became strange. We answered questions before they were finished, responded to things we hadn't realized were spoken yet. Once, Amir laughed, then stopped, confused. "Why are you looking at me like that?" he asked. "You just said something," Leah replied. He shook his head. "I didn't." Leah moved back from the fire, closer to the trees, listening. "Do either of you remember who spoke first tonight?" she asked quietly. Amir tried to joke, but it didn't land. He started making noise on purpose, clapping, dragging his boots, clearing his throat before speaking. Every sound felt wrong, too near, too immediate. When he shouted Leah's name, she flinched, not because it was loud, but because it sounded like it came from directly behind her. "If I'm wrong," she said finally, "I don't want it in the air." Inside the tent, the world felt smaller than it should have. Every movement sounded like it was happening inside my head. Fabric, breathing, Amir shifting his weight. Leah whispered something. I replied. She didn't answer. After a moment, she whispered again, the same words. Identical tone, identical timing. That's when I realized the first whisper hadn't come from her. I didn't say anything. Sometime later, Amir sat upright suddenly. "Why did I just say that?" he asked. "What?" I said. He swallowed. "I heard my voice, outside, saying my name." Leah didn't look surprised, She pulled her sleeping bag tighter and said, almost to herself, "It's not echoing us." "What do you mean?" I asked. Leah hesitated. "I think," she started, then stopped. "No, never mind." Amir snapped. "Say it." She shook her head. "If I'm wrong, I don't want it in the air." Later, I don't know when, I heard laughter. It was quiet, barely there, not sudden, not sharp, just a soft release of air, like someone trying not to laugh out loud. I recognized it immediately. It was Amir's, not the loud version, not the joking one he used around other people. The small laugh, the one he made under his breath when something amused him but wasn't worth commenting on. The kind of laugh you only hear when you've known someone a long time. My stomach dropped before my brain caught up. Amir was asleep. His chest rose and fell evenly, his mouth slightly open. The laughter came again. Same rhythm, same breath. It didn't come from the tent. It came from the trees, close enough that it sounded like it was standing just beyond the fabric, far enough that I couldn't place a shape to it. Leah was awake. She hadn't moved. She hadn't breathed differently. Very slowly, she turned her head toward the sound. Her eyes were open. She didn't look confused. She looked resigned. The laughter happened a third time, perfectly spaced, like it was being tested. Amir shifted in his sleep and murmured something unintelligible. The laughter stopped. That was worse, because it meant it was listening. Later, I don't know when, I heard my own voice, not speaking, just breathing, measured, calm, coming from the trees. Leah whispered, barely audible, "That's why it doesn't let sound go." I wanted to ask her what she meant. I didn't. At dawn, we left without talking. When we reached the road, I slammed the car door hard. The sound echoed properly. White, free. Amir let out a shaky laugh of relief. Then, from the trees behind us, I heard it again. The same laugh, perfectly repeated, out of place. Leah grabbed my arm hard enough to hurt. "Don't," she said. "Don't answer it." We drove away in silence. For a while, everything felt normal again. Sound behaved the way it should. Voices carried. Rooms felt wide. I told myself whatever had been in the forest belonged there, that it needed the space, the trees, the quiet. That belief lasted until last night. I was alone in my flat. No TV, no music, just the low hum of the city outside. I remember thinking how ordinary everything felt. I laughed quietly at something on my phone, not out loud, just a breath of amusement. A few seconds later, I heard it again, the same laugh, perfectly matched, close enough that I felt it before I placed it. Behind me, I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. That's when I finally understood. The forest hadn't been quiet. It hadn't been empty. It had been learning what to take. And whatever was listening out there didn't stay there.